It's been nearly a week since Apple announced iPadOS 16 at WWDC, which adds a lot of much requested features to the iPads. And now after we've used it, tried it out, seen its limitations, does iPadOS 16 fix the biggest issues with iPads and specifically the iPad Pros? Well, let's talk about that. Now, iPads have been crazy powerful for many years now, but the biggest limitation was the software, and that hit much harder when Apple added the M1 chip into the iPad Pros. The hardware is mind-blowing, but the software is very lacking. Almost insultingly lacking. That's why we put out a review of the iPad Pro saying that Apple really needs to step up, and everybody agreed, and going as far as not buying these because you don't really get that much extra use out of the extra power. Well, what did Apple add this year? What does it fix, and what is still very lacking? So let's start out with the simple things. We have the weather app. Now, I don't know how many people really care about this. I typically use this on my iPhone, but this is the best weather app. When you click on something, you have this full detailed view hour by hour. You have a lot of info about other quality as far as like UV, air quality. This thing is incredible, and that's thanks to Apple buying out a company a couple years ago that gives it this much data. I don't think this is a huge deal though for the iPad. One thing that I appreciate with my terrible handwriting is a new straightening feature. So when you've written some text, it's all over the place like this, you can actually go, hold it down, and then hit straighten. Now, as you see, it doesn't fix my terrible handwriting, but it made it look a lot better. The next thing I really appreciate is the display scaling option. So you can go over, select displays, scroll all the way down and go to display zoom, and just hit more space. Now, it says it's gonna restart the iPad. It doesn't really do that. It seems like it just turns the screen off and then turns it back on. So now everything got smaller. Now, as you can see, we actually can't add any more applications here. We just have more space between these applications. But then if you go into say Safari, you'll actually get a little refresh and all the text is smaller. And of course, if you're using things that you wanna see a lot more of, you wanna be more efficient, have more real estate, this adds it. Now, one of my biggest complaints was the Files app. With iPadOS 15, Apple made a couple updates. We finally had a transfer bar that actually told us the speed, which was nice, but it was still severely lacking. Now we have this list view where we have dates, we have sizes available to see. We have this sub menu when you open something up that gives you different options. We can actually go in and show extensions on all of these files so you know what kind of file it is. And then when you rename it, you can actually change the extension as well. Now, obviously I shouldn't have done that for a PNG, but just to show you guys, we have a lot more power. We also have customizable toolbars, a system-wide undo, and a redesigned find and replace. But some of the things we really asked for were not added to the Files app. For example, I just tried to plug in my external hard drive to show you guys something, and I accidentally tugged on it while it was being accessed. And now when I plug it in, it just simply won't show up. That's because it has a little corruption from it being unplugged accidentally. This has happened to me numerous times over the last year, and then I have to get out a Mac or a PC to be able to plug it in and use the disk utility to run first aid and quickly fix this issue. And bam, now we can plug it in and our 4TB SSD shows up. This is something that should be available on the iPad Pro when you're spending this much money. Now, along with that, the other thing that we needed was the ability to format a hard drive. Not all hard drives or SSDs are compatible, and when they aren't, you can't format them to make them work like you can on macOS or in Windows, or even on 8-year-old Android tablets. So if you want to erase your drive or you want to reformat it or partition it, you're still going to need a Mac, and that should be built into your Files app. With all the crazy AI software stuff they've been working on that's incredible, they should just be able to make this work. It's not a huge deal. Now with that, we also have a new reference mode under displays. If you have the 12.9-inch iPad like I do, you can go over here, select reference mode, then it allows you to do some fine tuning, but it also allows you to plug into a Mac and then you can use this as a display that will match specific professional work cases, which is nice. Now, they do actually have a reference mode on Apple's Studio display, which is not a mini LED display, so I wonder why it's only limited to the 12.9-inch model. And finally, for probably the most requested feature, better, less limiting multitasking and external display support. When Apple showed off Stage Manager on stage, I was super happy until we got more news about the limitations of it. Now let's go ahead and start off, show you how to use it. This is technically kind of like a separate app. It's kind of weird to do. You open up this little pull down in the control center, you select that, and we are in Stage Manager. Now you don't see anything until you start opening up some applications, and now we have this window here. So right here, I have multiple different tabs. I can also go ahead and grab, let's say, my Apple Music, even though I don't have it logged in here, and I can switch behind it. So we finally have one app open behind another one. We can actually go ahead and make this smaller. You can actually copy and paste from it, and you can pair apps together like this. And then let's say we go back to the Files app, bam, you swap through. Here, you know what, I want Files and I want my Mail. And now I can actually just use 4 fingers and switch through these applications. I can have different pairings, and it does work pretty well. You can in fact make one of these windows smaller, so you have 2 of them side by side, and I can even add another one here. There you go, we have 3 applications opened side by side. And then let me go ahead and swipe through, go to my Files app. Overall, I am very happy with this new addition, and it does work well. And then if you're not a fan of it, just turn it off and you could use your regular side-by-side applications. The biggest issue is the fact that this is M1 exclusive, and it doesn't make sense why. There's a lot of proof that it shouldn't be. I'll explain in just a sec. Now, one thing that this does also add, finally, is external display support properly. In the past, with iPadOS 15, you can use mirror display, but then you have these giant black bars on the side. Just like that, you guys actually just saw it there for a split second. All right, guys, so it looks like it is just bugged out, and no matter what I do, it is stuck with the old frustrating version of having an external display support. I tried 3 displays, restarted, there's no beta update, so it's just stuck right now. But as Apple showed off on stage, it does work when it's not buggy, and it works great. You have a full external display without those bars. You can have different applications there that you can open up and run other apps on your iPad at the same time. This is what we've wanted for years now. So since Stage Manager works so well, why are so many people upset? Well, the first one, there's no pro apps. Apple has been rumored to working on certain stuff. We wish we can get some better applications to make use of the hardware. That didn't happen, but the biggest one is the fact that Stage Manager is limited to only M1 iPads, and it just doesn't make sense why that would happen. Now, Digitimes actually reached out to Apple and they asked, why is this the case? And Apple said that they're only allowing it for M1s because it can use memory swap and access more RAM to run these applications. Now, on first thought, that kind of makes sense. All right, well, you have multiple apps open, you can switch through them, it needs more RAM. But if we dig a little bit deeper, you will see that the iPad Air 4 with the A14 actually supports this memory swap function if you have a 256 gigabyte version. And with that, if you have the base M1 iPad with 64 gig, that one does not, yet it does support the Stage Manager and external display functions. Now, some people will say, well, the M1 has 8 gigs of RAM already, so maybe that is why. But older iPads can actually run 3 different sets of apps for multitasking, also with picture-in-picture included. And now with Stage Manager, when we go up here and we enable this little sidebar, we have 4 sets that are open. So maybe for the older iPads, if it's a RAM issue, the iPad Pros, the previous ones have 6 gigs of RAM, why not just give us 3 options instead of 4? Those iPads can already run that, even worse iPads can. Now, along with that, if we take another step back, I was thinking about it, and the A12Z in the 2020 iPads, that processor was actually put into Apple's ARM transition kit for Apple Silicon, and that was running full-on Mac OS with terminal, with Pro applications, with that processor from the iPad. So if that can run full-on macOS, why can't we run Stage Manager on at least the iPad Pros from 2018 and 2020? In reality, once I did some more digging, there are different reputable people that are agreeing with this, and also one that actually said that there is code that will allow older iPads to run it that you can flag and enable. There's no reason why memory swapping is needed for simple resizing of application and allowing an external display to be connected without these bars here just to send data over. That is just crazy. Tablets, Android tablets from 5, 6, 7 years ago could do these kind of things without any issues, and everybody knows that iPadOS and iOS is a lot more memory efficient than Android is. I think we all know the truth. Apple needs to sell more iPads. That was actually the only category that declined by 14% compared to Macs and iPhones and everything else that actually gained sales in the last quarterly reports. So people aren't buying these M1s because the software just doesn't take advantage of it, and their older iPads do the job just fine. So how does Apple get them to update? Well, they gave them a feature that is exclusive to the M1s, a feature that works incredibly well, gives you more pro capabilities, and you just have to upgrade to get that. Now that is really unfortunate. I think we should be able to have this on other iPads, but this is Apple's choice. This is what they're pushing, and people will upgrade because of this. Now, of course, there's other things that are kind of missing. For example, the lock screen functionality with iOS, the new widgets, that's very nice. Why can't we have this on this large display when you're in the lock screen? I'm not sure, maybe they will end up adding that. But overall, if you're an owner of an M1 iPad, you're gonna be very happy, but everybody else is very frustrated that they are stuck in the past. And the same thing goes if people have iPhone 7s with iOS 16. Technically, it should be supported, even if they dropped the 6S. Last year, the 6S supported iOS 15, and now Apple is dropping 2 years of devices to get people to upgrade to all the nice software improvements with iOS 16. So Apple wants people to upgrade. That is very clear. You guys let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Was this a good enough upgrade to iPadOS to make it more pro and to make it worth it? I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Click that circle above to subscribe to see more videos like this one. Check out one of those great ones right over there. This is Max, and I'll see you in the next video.